We are now going to create a generic C4 explosion which might be used in cinematic sequence. Here's the mesh for the bomb with the C4, wires, and the LCD screen which will be animated. For this animated texture, we will use a sub-UV texture. In UDK, the texture is imported as a flipbook texture where we can set up the number of tiles, the frame rate, and if the animation is looping or not. In the material, here are the settings for the flipbook texture. It looks like this in the level. For an explosion, timing and contrast are key to visually appealing effects. I'm going to show you the VFX sequence which involves smoke, fireballs, explosion, shrapnel, and some smoke lingering afterwards. We begin by an effects that gives the core size of an explosion. There is some randomness in the scale, color, and size of these particles. We add some more smoke, which is bigger and darker, and adds some contrast to the effects. We add the main explosion. It's the same textures used in the big fire in the building. Reusing the same texture is essential to reduce the memory footprint. We add some more fireballs. Be careful to use similar colors or else your effects does not look cohesive. By playing all the effects at the same time, it lacks a certain oomph, so we add a very brief white flash of light when the explosion goes off. The explosion seems more powerful. We have to be sure that the flash is barely visible. It lasts only for 1/10 of a second. We continue by adding more frames, trying to keep around the same lifetime and colors. I now add a shockwave to the smoke. Just after the big explosion, the smoke slows down and goes away and fades out. Adding this kind of effect adds depth and the 3D feeling to the explosion and helps integrating the effects in the level and the surrounding objects. We can have a better integration of effects by adding a decal on the ground, a burned surface where the explosion was. The decal has its axis locked on the z-axis, so it stays horizontal at all times. You have to set the size and rotation of the decal in random within a limited range in case several explosions happens at the same time. There is no good explosion without shrapnel, so we add some chunks of concrete blown away by the explosion. As far as consistency is concerned, gravity is very important. We have to define gravity and keep it consistent for all the effects for them to be realistic and coherent. You can always cheat, and you have to, because for an object to seem heavy, it has to fall down slower. The slower it gets, the heavier it looks, especially when it happens in the distance. For this level, gravity is set to a real one, 9.81 meters per second. The shrapnel also collides with the ground. It's inexpensive for 2D particles compared to collision between 3D mesh particles and complex 3D static meshes. Let's add some more shrapnel. And a cool effect that spawns some smoke when the shrapnel hits the ground. It's expensive, but it's a cinematic sequence, so we usually have no AI, just scripted events, and we can afford this kind of effects in that case. Having a closer look at the first black shrapnel, we notice that their edges are hard, not smooth like the other ones. This is called binary alpha or opacity mask. instead of an opacity alpha blend. It's faster to display, but the alpha fade in and fade out does not work with an opacity mask. Here's the material I use. We can add sparks, which are cool. They have to follow the strength and the velocity of the explosion, but they last longer, like the smoke you see on the ground. I also added smoke in the air that stays and goes away slowly. Delays, lifetime, and timing are all very important for an explosion. When there is an explosion, we can see in a slow motion video a shockwave which travels faster than sound. The air is compressed and distorts the background. We can emulate this effect and make it more present using the distortion material in a black and white texture. We can see the distortion affecting the background and the explosion is complete.